Welcome to We Are Not Here to Tick a Box with David Kane and Debbie Hayes. Episode 21, Filtering. So we come to the final episode of series number 2, and myself and Debbie were thinking, well, what are we going to do for the final episode? And we've come up with this crazy notion that perhaps this one will aim it at senior leaders in a business, CEOs, board of directors, and talk about that. And actually, just to tip that one on its head, question for people who, you know, are at the customer-facing side of a business: how well does your CEO know what goes on in the business? There's a question to start off with. What truly goes on? I'll ask you, Deb, what's your thoughts on that? How much does a CEO or a board of directors truly know what is going on at ground level today in business, would you say?
I guess what we perhaps have both experienced in our years in business is that there can definitely be a sense of filtering of information, I guess, that would go upwards. And obviously that's through that sort of a level of protection, I guess, for the teams. But obviously, I guess the further it goes up, then the more potential there has for the information to be filtered, and therefore there is a level of distancing, because really is the person at the top really getting the full picture? And the likelihood is probably not. But I think it becomes quite a difficult position to be in, and obviously they've got the ultimate responsibility, and they can, well, at any point that I guess any leader of any team can be seen as the go-to person. You can get several, I guess, layers of this as well. When you're the go-to person, my question is, well, who's supporting you?
Yeah.
If you're the person shouldering all the responsibility, and there's an expectation that you've got the answers, or you know, that you might have some insight or questioning, then it must be quite a lonely place to be in, because where's your outlet for you to share your own vulnerabilities? You know, who's supporting you? You know, how connected are you to the team?
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
an interesting dynamic, isn't it?
I think the interesting thing about that, and it is an interesting thing, is the you know, these TV programs, Back to the Floor, that you see, and every single one of them proves without doubt that they don't. In every single one, you know, there's always those moments, those light bulb moments where I didn't realise this was going on. I mean, I've seen a few. I saw the one over Pickford Removals. I used to work for Pickford's once in my life, and their CEO was, you know, very concerned about the overnights, the drivers, you know, the vulnerability the drivers have at overnight stops. Didn't realise how little they were being, you know, paid. You know, you know, their pocket money, for want of a better word. There's loads of things that came out of that, you know, and I've seen umpteen like that, and I think that those type of programs show that there is a lot of the time this filtering, as you quite rightly say. There's only one reason why they don't know: because they haven't been informed. And you know, their job, as much as it is to try and know as much as possible, you know, one individual, whoever that is, whoever that CEO is, can only be in one place at a time. They're relying on a structure. That's why large corporations have a structure, so that you know, there's an element of accountability. And of course, the CEO can only make wise decisions if the information that they're provided is the right information. It has integrity, and you know, that's a question. You know,
I suppose that brings us onto the level of onto the concept of like transparency, and how much vulnerability is really allowed. Are people really allowed to share where they openly are?
Well, I mean, you talk about vulnerability, and again, you're coming back into the mental health side. You know,
Yeah.
there was a study done by Performance in People. I think it was around 2019. I've not seen any stats over and above that at this
Yeah.
point. And in that study, they showed that 1 in 10 people who discussed their mental health concerns with their business were either disciplined, demoted, or dismissed within 6 months.
Wow.
And so the whole point about vulnerability, how are people how
Yeah.
are people expected to be vulnerable with the truth if those type of statistics exist? You know, are you gonna risk it? And you know, and when I say risk it, I have this piece around, you know, people who I think people need to walk in other people's shoes to understand this piece around vulnerability, because certainly at a lower level, I mean, I know we're talking CEOs here, but again, you know, the strength of a business culture is probably at the coalface more often than not. You know, that's where the true strength actually is. You know, and I think people who comment on things such as mental health and well-being, you need to walk in other people's shoes. You know, I don't think I've ever said this on our podcast before, but when you see celebrities talking about mental health and being applauded for taking time out, that's very easy when you've got a couple of million in the bank. That's very easy to do that, knowing full well that the door is going to be left ajar, because actually in celebrity world, in professional sport world, you're a commodity. You know, that's quite good. The fact that you are this person. For example, you know, go back to Marcus Rashford. Would school meals have been given to people had I done it? Well, absolutely not. So, you know, celebrities do, you know, they do raise the profile and things. Absolutely. But I think there's certain areas like the mental health side where actually, do you know what? You've got to walk in their shoes. And it's not as easy for some people to be brave enough, to be honest, to be transparent, for fear. And again, we've covered this in this series, this fear of, well, there is a risk. And the risk is that it is going to affect me detrimentally. So actually, I stop myself from doing that. And that's what they've got to consider. You know, how transparent, how honest is the information that they're giving. I think the back to the floor bit's brilliant a lot of the time. But a lot of the time as well, when you see these back to the floors, then the cover up begins, as opposed to actually deal with the challenges.
Well, that goes back to one of our very early episodes, isn't it, with the royal visit?
Yeah, we mentioned that.
Things then again can be presented in a way, can't they? And I guess that's like information, can't it? I guess it can be presented and people paint a picture and things. But I suppose we need to, like you say, when you're walking in somebody's, you need to be able to walk in somebody's shoes. It's being able to have that empathy, isn't it? And to step into that other person's shoes. And in my experience, I mean, I'm naturally a very empathic person. I think I always have been. So for me, that just seems like one of the most natural things in the world to do, isn't it? And I think you've then got to look at that, okay, why people don't do that. And often in my experience is they either can't do it or they don't want to do it, because what it does is it actually, stepping into somebody else's shoes, it actually triggers their own stuff that they actually don't have the capacity to deal with. So therefore that can be one of the reasons, because they're not ready to deal with their own stuff, so they can't be around somebody else that's got those things going on, because it triggers their own. So it you know, I suppose it's seeking the right support to be vulnerable so that you can be supported through that vulnerability and you can be truly open. Because in my experience anyway, I don't think everybody has the capacity to hold you in that space without level of judgment and things. So whether, you know, I guess no matter what role you're in within an organisation, I think, you know, we're all human at the end of the day. And so it's making sure that everybody at every level has that outlet, be supported, isn't it? And I think it was just obviously we just wanted to recognise that probably, maybe at the top information gets filtered, and do you therefore not have that same visibility, and therefore but actually it creates its own vulnerabilities in itself by not having that visibility. And
well, I mean, and look, this might happen. It might happen. I mean, we talked in an episode around fresh eyes, people coming into an organisation and actually asking them, what do we do well? What could we improve? And what do our competitors do better? Those type of meetings. And, again, I think we're coming into an age now, we spoke about this in the past, where the expectations of customers and employees are going to change dramatically. They already have. How close are the business leaders to this new wave that is on its way? To a lot of people, it's very alien. You look at current trends, and even me, I'm 43, and some, I know, and some, you can come again, and some trends, even I go, wow, what's all that about? But actually, that is actually the future. And I'm not aware of this. I'm not aware of this. And again, we've talked about the role is it people being on their best behaviours. I'd be interested, how many CEOs hold quality circles with people outside of their leadership team who actually bring in, and this is regular. No, we'll just do it once a year. We'll do this every month. Every month, I'm going to go to a region of our business or whatever it may be, and I'm going to invite people in, and I want absolute honesty. There'll be no there's going to be no come back. There's going to be nothing to fear. This is about me understanding what are your challenges, what do you see, this fresh eyes bit. I want to hear from you, because I do think filtering goes on. I 100% think that's a great word, filtering. It does go on. And I think only from a CEO holding those type of meetings, and meeting one won't be great because people will be afraid.
We'll be cautious, won't they? For sure.
Yeah. But if this becomes common practice, it's like everything. The more common practice comes, the more that people appreciate. There is nothing to be fearful of here. This is a really good thing. Actually, that's when the nuggets will start to come out, and that is when the likes of new strategies we spoke about. It's all well and good us talking about gratitude. How do you put that into a business? Working together, how does that work into a business? This bit about connection, how do I achieve that in the business? We've spoke about a lot of topics over the first two series, but only by truly understanding from the people who are at the coalface. Those people are the business, always will be. They're the people who interact with the customer. They have to be the focal point in everything that we do. So by understanding what is their beliefs, what is their views of our business, can we then start to build these other strategies so that we're working more effectively. We're getting real data, real analysis that is pointing us then in the right direction. Of course, then to build those strategies, you can speak to people like us, and we can help. But I think it's got to start with the reality of the situation.
The sort of phrase I want to come to there, I guess, building up upon what we've already spoken about, is around building trust. Like we do with any relationship, it's about building trust. But I guess if we can build trust within an organisation, build trusted connections, trusted relationships, trusted data, then that's it takes it to a whole new level, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But we all know that actually trust takes time to build as well, doesn't it? We don't instantly, gain that sense of real trust at any depth instantly, do we? That takes, a period of time. So I guess it's, if you're listening into this episode, and you recognise that's something you need to do, it is about setting that intention, but then building that, isn't it? It's not something that's just going to happen overnight. What would our be in achieving that, if you can build those trusted relationships?
Absolutely. And I'm thinking back now in terms of the CEOs that I've worked for. I only look back and think of one that I would put in that bracket. Obviously, I won't name who that is because it could be any of them. So best not to mention. But one. I think one where I'd actually think, do you know what? Yeah, approachable? Do I think anybody could have gone to that CEO, spoken to them in confidence? Do I think that CEO had the maturity, the empathy, as you say, to actually handle the information in the right way and actually make positive change off the back of that? Yeah, absolutely. One. That and you know, I've worked for over 20 odd years now, and I'm saying one. So it's a very, very far. You know,
but it's a good benchmark to set, I guess, isn't it? If we can, I guess, offer that as an insight, some from our couple of episodes that we've, a couple of seasons that we've now done of the podcast, that if we can now set that as an intention for you, give you that insight, then I think the impact that could make, well, it has to be significant, because if we don't have trust, then we've got mistrust. And
well, it's about honesty, and we can do this now. If I was still working, I couldn't come out with a comment like that, because the first thing that happened is, well, which one's that then? You know, and people have got like, you know, but I can say that now. You know, I can sit here now, and there's no repercussions on me. One CEO. I worked for I don't know how many over the years, certainly double figures, and I'm saying one CEO where I put into that bracket. And I think, you know, what we're doing here, and what we'd like other people in business to be able to do is to be honest. Great story around Elvis Presley. You know, I'm an Elvis Presley fan. True story. This he did the 68 comeback special. He did the 68 comeback special. And for those of you who don't know, that was supposed to be a Christmas show, a Christmas tree, and, you know, O Come All Ye Faithful. And no, the director saw it as a way of re-establishing Elvis. He'd been in the movies for long. It was the leather outfit one. It's the one that started the, you know, that then went on to the Vegas shows and actually created, it was his second coming, for want of a better word. And he sat down with the director of the 68, just Elvis. And Elvis turned around to him and said, what do you make of my career? And the director turned around to him and said, it's in the toilet. Because the films were so bad. He'd lost his audience. The Beatles were around. He said, it's in the toilet. And Elvis laughed. He said, at last, somebody who's honest. Because he was surrounded with people who were filtering. He was surrounded with people who were telling him that it was this, that, the other. He'd lost his edge. And in that 168 comeback special, because the director was so honest with him, because he went down the right pathway, the next 6 years of his career blossomed, because he got the information that he needed. He knew which direction he needed to go in. But it was only through honest communication. It's in the toilet. And this, for me, again, great way to end series 2. You know, are your people saying to you, as Steve Binder did to Elvis, the absolute honesty and truth?
Being vulnerable enough to open it up for debate.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
And you know what we'd love? I'd love a CEO to come on as a guest in series 3. I would love a CEO to come on and tell us what the reality is. Let us all learn. Yeah. Maybe series 3 we could get a couple of guests on. Who knows where we could take it? But that pretty much we'll leave it there. Leave that one hanging, as they say. Another series comes and goes. We'll be back very, very soon for series number 3. But Debbie, as always, wonderful. Really enjoyed it. And look after yourself. Indeed. Take care. Bye. We will be back after Easter with series 3 of We Are Not Here to Tick a Box.